Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red, and I got a video today from Patient Xenia. You know, women really think that caring for men and caring for women is a zero-sum game. Like, you can care for men and still care for women. You can still make laws that make it more even for men and not take much away from women either. Just because you focus on one doesn't mean you hate the other. Like, both sexes can benefit from us coming together and compromising, but I could be wrong. So let's please like and subscribe down below. I really appreciate that, and let's get to that chow. It's chow time.
Hello my dears, welcome back to another video. There has been a video that I've seen clips of. I haven't seen the full video, so I thought I'd react to the full video with you in this video today. And it was basically a BBC debate. I think it was a debate. I don't know if it was intentionally a debate or if it just derailed into a debate, but it ended up being a debate discussing men's mental health and whether or not we should be focusing on men's mental health, etc. in Britain. And this was a debate that was being held on the BBC. And so after scanning YouTube, I finally managed to find the full video. And so I thought we could react to it together.
I'm going to change direction and talk about Jeff's book. Or the sort of subject matter, The British Bloke Decoded, which tries broadly to explain the behaviour of Britain's husbands, dads and brothers.
I'm gonna assume bloke means like an average guy or a normal guy, right? I'm not in British lingo, but I'm assuming that's what it is.
Now, it's quite a light-hearted book.
From banter to man flu, everything finally explained.
There you go. All right, good promotion. Men have obviously and arguably taken a lot of flack, rightly, in the past few.
We've rightfully been taking flack, so we deserve everything that we've been getting treated recently. We all deserve this. Is that what you're saying, lady?
Years, many people would say post #MeToo.
His face
Yeah,
said
that was the
Is
same
this an
face as
attempt
I
to
was making.
rehabilitate the image of an average bloke?
Well, I suppose what I always thought was like that blokes are a subset species of men, and most blokes don't really have a huge amount of power in their own lives. They're sort of trying to be dependable, loving people for the people in their lives. They might not be the best at remembering important dates or even the names of their nephews and nieces, you know, like, but I think that...
Dude, I don't remember any of my little cousin's name. I don't have nephews and nieces from my brother and sister, but I have a lot of nephews and nieces from my cousins. In our culture, we call them nephews and nieces too, so...
It's an occasional rubbishness coming from a good place. So what I've tried to do in this book is just try to explain some of the more baffling behaviour of men, like, you know, the fact that we don't put on sun cream when we're on holiday, you know, maybe till the third day.
Yeah. Guilty. I do not really like putting on sunscreen. It just feels gross. Thank God I'm, you know, sufficiently melanated, so I don't really get sunburned like that. I do get dark, but...
It's easy to say, well, it's just bravado. And then I sort of thought about it more deeply, and I thought, well, actually, we don't put on lotions more generally. So the moment we're on...
Okay, I do put lotion on every day because I got some ashy-ass hands and arms. So, and because I'm dark. So it's just easy to see all that ashiness. So, yes, I do put lotion on.
The beach, and you have to navigate that bit of your lower back.
It's because you're not used to doing it.
We're not match fit, Joe. That's the thing. And you think that might be the first time we've touched that bit of our back that year. So I was trying to take a lot of these areas where men's behaviour is confusing and say, is there something deeper? And I think that they're light-hearted subjects like that. But there's also, you know, like loneliness and what happens to male friendships as we age.
Well, and when it comes to the serious points, we might come back to the application of sun cream later on. But in the Times, this headline, Rishi Sunak urged to appoint Minister for Men, suggested by a Conservative MP. New role would champion issues such as reducing male suicide. Would that be something you'd be in favour of?
Well, what's interesting about that is the hostility it sometimes faces whenever it comes up.
Who wouldn't be in favor of reducing male suicide? Who's happy about this and wants those numbers to go up? The fuck?
saw a programme where there was like a feminist academic and a Lib Dem MP, and they were so hostile to this idea. And I thought, if you flipped those things, i.e. that it's the biggest cause of death for men under 50 is suicide, men are less likely to go to the doctors, you know, men are less likely to maintain friendships. If that was for women, we'd often look at, well, why is society making that happen? Whereas with men, the argument is often, why are they doing that to themselves?
Okay, I'm going to just quickly check to see if we have a minister for women in the UK, because I don't know if we do or not. Whether or not that is the case is going to affect what I think about that statement. 1 second. Okay, so we do have a minister for women. So Kemi Badenoch is the Minister of Women and Equalities in the UK. So if we have a...
The Minister of Women is also the Minister of Equalities? That's kinda
minister
weird.
for women, then why shouldn't we have a minister for men? But let's see what they say anyway before I jump to conclusions.
It's the biggest cause of death for men under 50 is suicide. Men are less likely to go to the doctors, you know, men are less likely to maintain friendships. If that was for women, we'd often look at, well, why is society making that happen?
This is true. This is how we actually view society when things are happening to women. We try to figure out how is society propagating what's happening to women. But when things are happening to men, it's just men's fault. They're doing it on themselves.
Whereas with men, the argument is often, why are they doing that to themselves? So I'm not like totally wedded to the idea, but the hostility towards the idea, I find it instructive.
Ava?
I think that it feeds into the culture a little bit, this Minister for Men argument. Like, in my mind, I think there should be a Minister for Mental Health, which would be all-encompassing. I mean, you've got something like 7...
Oh, so when it comes to men, we should just have one for mental health that encompasses everybody. But when it comes to women, you need your own minister. Gotcha.
million children waiting for prescriptions for mental health at the moment. It's a crisis that's endemic throughout the country, not specific.
Yeah, see, to minimize men's issues, you just make it a global issue amongst kids and adults, and everybody also have this particular issue. Oh, gotcha. Just to diminish our issues even more.
To men. And I think, you know, a lot of ministers kind of bandy this about to sort of, I'm sorry, but make an enemy out of women. I think, not you, and I don't think your book is.
I don't
Sunak...
accept that. I don't think it is to make an enemy. If we looked at during COVID, men were literally more likely to die from COVID. And I don't really want to cast myself as a meninist or one of these guys from the manosphere, because that's not who I am. But I do find it interesting that sometimes the arguments tend to throw it back.
But who was doing all the work during COVID? You know, a lot of the time, if you looked into people's households, it was the women who were taking on the laundry, the school care, all of that.
Are there not single men and single women? Did single men just disappear out of the face of the earth during COVID, and only men with wives that their wives took care of stuff were there? What the fuck?
Disputing any of that, what I'm saying that there are specific issues that men face that might warrant specific attention. I mean, literally, the biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide. That is an arresting statistic. And if that doesn't warrant specific attention, mental health is an umbrella issue.
I have to say that is also because women are unsuccessful. That is a lot of, feeds into that statistic.
I'm sorry, that's funny. What kind of...
It has to bring it back to women and how women are failed to commit, you know, self-deletion. We know this. This is why the statistics is so high for men. Men go through with it.
Response is that we're just not as successful. Okay, no need for you to show off about your high.
Right, it's like them trying to combat. So you happen to be number one, but we attempt it more, just where you don't end up killing ourselves like men do, right?
Suicide rates. Okay, we're trying.
Any space for this idea that men might have unique challenges that face them. And the problem is, even as I'm saying this, in my mind, it's like I've got out the violin, and I don't want to be.
Read the book.
I don't want to be this guy, because that's part of the problem. Is because you're encouraged at one level.
I 100% agree with the gentleman. Every time we talk about our issues, every time we bring up something, also in my mind and in my heart, it does feel like I'm playing a little violin. That no one cares. It's that little problem, but it causes major issues. You know, we want to talk about these things. We don't want to feel so marginalized that anything we bring up is just like us. Because some of our issues matter. A lot of men are dying. A lot of young men are lost. We need to be able to do something, or at least acknowledge what the fuck is going on.
is men need to talk about their problems more, and then the moment you do it, you're like, all right, but not
Exactly.
quite so often and not quite so loud. So like you say, the book is more light-hearted than that, but it certainly goes around these issues.
Francis?
I think it's about this issue. I've got a brother, a son, nephews. Paul Novak, one of my best mates, who's leading the TUC. When you look at masculinity, it sort of feels like boys are still brought up. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to talk about your feelings. You've got to put on this bravado. And I think that has to change. But I also think that we have to change the fact that women still earn 15% less than men.
But no one's saying you can't.
Shut
do
the
both.
fuck up!
Exactly.
This lady serious? God.
Can you multitask?
Well, not me personally, obviously, but I'm saying that. But I don't think those are reasons to not address these problems.
I agree.
Right? So you're bringing up women's issues when we bring up men's issues, as if women's issues are more important and more pressing than the men's issue. The 15% wage gap, I mean, if you really think it's an issue, then I guess it's an issue, which it is not a fucking issue. But compared to 95% suicide rate, number one means of men dying under 50, that's a problem.
But most women experience sexual harassment.
I totally.
Why does that
I don't
diminish men's
understand.
issues?
It's happening again with this conversation where I'm talking about the specific issues that men face, and you're quoting other issues which I do not contest on any level.
Here's a proposal.
I'm seeming very chippy now, aren't I? I didn't expect it.
Why don't you launch BASH, Blokes Against Sexual Harassment?
Well, I'm totally against sexual harassment, of course.
I guess we're all for sexual harassment, guys. And we're not part of an organization against sexual harassment. We are advocating for sexual harassment across the board because we're men, we're predators, we love touching people and, in the wrong places. This is so stupid. Like, these old people have no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
Do something to support women, stand by women who are facing that in the way that women stand by men.
In the way that women stand by men? What way is that?
Are you a young man who's struggling with depression? Do you have days where you contemplate self-deleting? Have you ever considered focusing all your attention onto fixing women's problems and starting your own campaign called BASH, Blokes Against Sexual Harassment? It's scientifically proven to help you fight your depression. And how do I know this? Shh. Just trust the science. I just think that's quite funny. Lady said, listen, I understand that you guys are depressed and all that. I understand that you guys are trying to take your own lives or whatever. But you need to understand, we're not getting paid as much as we would like. And also, creepy guys that we're not attracted to are hitting on us and it's making us feel very uncomfy. Okay? So I feel like you guys just kind of need to suck it up a little bit and help us fix our problems. Okay? Once you fix our problems, there are...
Shout out to Xenia.
There's no guarantee we'll help you fix yours, but can you please just fix our problems? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm totally against sexual harassment, of course.
But do something to support women, stand by women who are facing that in the way that women stand by men.
Do we though?
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
He's literally just pointed out that men have high rates of suicide. Men were dying at high rates during COVID, which I didn't even know, by the way, which is crazy. I feel like we were told that the elderly had a higher death rate from COVID. We were told that people with obesity had a higher death rate from COVID. I don't remember anyone making sure that it was a high alert issue that men were dying at higher rates from COVID.
Why would they
Unless
care?
I missed it. Write in the comments if you remember people talking about this in the news. If you remember this being
we're
made
just
a big
disposable.
story
They've
that
never
COVID
mentioned
was
anything like that.
disproportionately affecting men. If you do remember that, then maybe I just missed it. But I don't remember ever being told that COVID disproportionately affected men. If I'm not an anomaly and it actually wasn't common knowledge that men were disproportionately affected by COVID, that within itself proves his point that we kind of have a blind spot when it comes to caring about things that have a disproportionate impact on men. And I find it interesting how she's saying, you know, support women in the same way that women have supported men. When do women do that?
Right? That's what I
Did I miss
said.
it? I think that your average woman cares a lot about supporting her son. I think she cares a lot about supporting her partner. I think she cares a lot about supporting her brothers. But the idea that women have included men and, you know, tried to champion men's rights and cared about men's issues.
I can only think of like one group of men. That would be the honey badgers. You know, the group of lawyers that really advocate for men's rights. Those would be the biggest, loudest group of women that do advocate for men. And shout out to those women. You know, like, thank you very much. But other than them, no one cares. Fuck, even us men don't really care half the goddamn time. And half the men there don't even give a fuck. And half the men support the women. I'm sure there's a good chunk of men that agree with that old lady. Saying that, oh yeah, we should, you know, protect women against sexual assault and stuff like this. You know, like, fuck our mental health. You know, like, we're dying, but, you know, women are just getting raped left and right, and that needs to be stopped.
When did that happen? Because I just don't believe that's true. I think that typically speaking, women have always prioritized women, which is fair enough because that's the point of feminism. But to pretend that you've been caring about men's rights and men's issues all this time, and so therefore you think they should be returning the favor to you and supporting you, is just complete fallacy. When did that happen? But when it comes to caring about men's issues, it's almost, most of the time, it's really men who are trying to push that, and often getting shut down by feminists in the way that he's now being shut down.
And a lot of men quit, and a lot of men lose faith. A lot of men lose, you know, like, they just lose the desire to want to help anymore because, yeah, they get shitted on. Fuck, I get shitted on. I get shitted on for just having a fucking channel that talks about men's issue. I don't even shit on women. Maybe occasionally when I do shitty things. But just having a channel that speaks about men's issues, women just feel a way about it. It's just as if I was, you know, like the new Andrew Tate that was trafficking women left and right, and you know, it's crazy.
And it's crazy for me to watch this, right? Because I've obviously been quite critical of the red pill. I criticise the red pill for having the same tactics as feminists, in that they can't seem to
I do agree that there's somehow some of the red pill and manosphere people do create content that is very similar to feminism. I do agree with that.
Uplift their own sex and help their own sex without having to crap on the opposite sex. So when I see red pillars doing all this like Crimea River stuff of being like, oh, you know, all we want to do is talk about men's issues, but like every time we talk about men's issues, people shut you down. But it's like, what do you expect when you say things like women shouldn't vote, or women are like
I don't think very many of us red pillars say women shouldn't vote. I think that one's more on like Pearl's end.
children, and you basically generalize the experience of OnlyFans girls and your sugar baby women who you have on your podcast. You generalize their experiences and their lifestyle as though that's the average woman's lifestyle. When
it kind of is. Most women out there are pretty promiscuous. They might not be living like how OnlyFans are living, but they're out there on the streets doing things that men don't enjoy. So, yeah.
And it couldn't be further from reality, you know? So it's like, yeah, of course you're going to get pushback. Like,
I think you're not seeing too much outside experiences, Xenia. I'm not dogging on her or anything. These are her opinions, so I somewhat disagree. I live in LA. I see women like this constantly. Like the women in the podcasts, I do agree. They aren't everywhere, but there's a lot of them out there. When I go out to, say, bowling and I see a group of women, two of those women are like the epitome of OnlyFans girls. Just how they act, how they dress. So I do agree, not all women. We do generalize a little bit too much on it. So I'll agree with her on that. But there are a good chunk of women, and I say like 30%. And 30% is a huge number. That's maybe not be the majority, but it might be the majority of groups of women. Because I don't think the majority of women are nice, you know, traditional, loving, caring women.
don't know what you expect when you say stuff like that. Like, of course, yes, you're going to get pushback. But it's interesting to me to see Jeff in this video getting a lot of pushback still, even though he's actually delivered his points in a very reasonable, very level-headed way.
Again, Xenia, yes, some of the red pillars, Fresh and Fit and all them, do present it in a much harsher way. But there's other creators like me and, you know, like Araco TV and, you know, Poor Man's Podcast. We're very base / like in the center of everything. We don't really trash on women. We don't go out of our way to do it. When content comes up, we will say something about it, but we're not there to just trash women. I'm here to more propagate men upwards. We do judge women quite harshly. I'm not going to disagree with that, but we're not here to just, you know, put women down.
At no point has he blamed women for any of these issues. At no point has he vilified women for any of these issues. He just stated issues that men are experiencing in Britain, and he just basically got shut down anyway because the women still...
See, Xenia, the thing is that we vilify women when it comes to some of these issues. I agree with you in this too. It's because, yes, when we bring it up, we get flack like this. So we get frustrated as men because we're not important. We don't have any, you know, like our issues literally do not matter to the social settings of everything. So, yes, so I can see men, you know, being a little bit upset about it. But look, even us trying to be reasonably talking about these issues, this is the reason why Red Pill blew up so big and why they had to speak a lot more harshly. This is very similar to Kevin Samuels. How Kevin Samuels first started, he was much nicer. He wasn't so harsh as he was before his passing. And then he realized people aren't listening. People don't care until you poke the bear a little bit, to push on them a little bit. Then they start caring. Then they start discussing these issues. So I think it's more these men are being facetious purposely so that these issues get brought up. They might get brought up in a bad light, talking bad about men and stuff, but it's getting brought up, and that's the important thing.
Instinctively got defensive and took it as though he was trying to take something away from the women's rights movement, or he was trying to vilify women, when at no point did he ever actually mention women until they mentioned women. And there's no confirmation that he even disputes any of the stuff that they're talking about. He might very well agree with all the points that they're making, that, yeah, we should focus on these issues that affect women too. But it's like, why are they mutually exclusive? Why can you only focus on one? Why can't we focus on both? Yep. I just don't understand. Like, if you have a minister for women and you have people advocating for women's rights, which I think is a good thing, and I think you should also have a minister for men too, because the same is true in the opposite direction. There are going to be certain things that exclusively impact men, and so why not have someone focus on that and tackle that?
And I think we could...
Well, I do think this discussion has already been interesting. I've mentioned the suicide stat several times, and we've ended up discussing other things which are completely valid, certainly in terms of my industry, and I understand why those discussions are live discussions. But the idea that we can't have both those discussions, I genuinely find that odd, Francis.
Nobody said we couldn't.
Is this discussion being squeezed out? Is there not enough space for this as well?
Well, it slightly feels, I'd rather agree with Jeff. I'm fascinated listening to this discussion that at the first hint of men saying maybe, you know, we need a bit of attention, it's, oh, well, women have been oppressed throughout the ages, which is true. But it must be the case that if there are...
Women were not oppressed throughout the ages. Women were propagated up throughout all of history. Like, yes, maybe some manners, they were somewhat oppressed, but overall, women have always been put on pedestals. Women have always been given privilege by all societies. Most societies give women such privilege to be able to live their lives the way most women do.
There are specific male problems, or problems that only affect men, then we should try and deal with them at the same time as dealing with the specific issues that affect women.
What would you task the Minister for Men with doing?
Ultimately bad for men too. Sexual harassment is ultimately bad for men too. And decent men need to...
See, she brings it back up to sexual harassment. Like, all he said was, every time we bring up men's issue, you seem to make it so women's issues are more important. And you argued the exact same point right after he fucking finished talking.
stand up and say so. And I
I'm
think
happy
we
to
could,
say
we
so
could have
right
better.
now.
So men don't stand up and say sexual assault is bad? All of us just be like, yeah, go do it. Go and assault those women, guys. Like, what the fuck?
I'm happy to
Better
talk
lives.
about.
And I guess that is that. I've pretty much said all my thoughts on this video. I agree with Jeff. I think that we should absolutely start focusing on these issues. And I think that feminists need to come out of their scarcity mindset. Focusing on men's issues is not going to take anything away from women's rights or women's issues. Because if we have healthier men and healthier women, we'll have a better society, and then our children will have better outcomes because they'll be raised by healthier people. If we're going to have a women's minister, then why not have a men's minister? Because it's really hard to justify why you should have a women's minister and also simultaneously criticize the concept of a men's minister. It sounds quite sexist,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Do you agree with Jeff and the points that he made about the fact that we should focus more on men's mental health, and that maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have people allocated to tackling these issues? Or do you agree with the women in the video that having a minister for men would make an enemy out of women, and it will also distract away from the issues that impact women? Or I think that was their point anyway. Regardless of what your opinion is, I would be very interested to know in the comment section. So do let me know. I'd be very fascinated to read. If you've enjoyed...
Whew, that was some sad chow, tell the truth. We're not evil. Men aren't evil. There's evil men, there's evil women, there's evil people, but men aren't inherently evil. You know, and we just want to be acknowledged with some of our issues. Like the suicide rate is just unfathomable, that we live in such a great society nowadays and everything is so modernized, but yet men are still taking their lives at such high rates. Why? Like, there is some issues we need to address, and addressing those issues don't take anything away from women. It really doesn't. Maybe it'll take a little bit of you know what? It might take a little bit of time away from certain issues from women, but overall, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to help women. Like Xenia said, more stable men equals more stable women and relationships. Hopefully, that's the goal. At least is to to make that happen. And if we're not addressing anything, society just keeps going the way it's going. Please like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. And catch you guys next time. Ciao.